Alex, what's up? Um, are
Okay.
you are you okay with us recording, or are you okay with us sharing this recording of your story publicly?
Absolutely. I recover out loud.
Sweet. Can you or anyone that you may mention in your story face legal prosecution due to anything that you shared during your story?
Absolutely not.
Good. We don't want you to get in trouble. So, will you spell your name for us?
Alex, Alex.
Okay. Is that it? Is that all you want? That's fine.
Yeah, you could
Okay.
you could just put Alex
Okay. Well, I spelled that right. Cameron's going to be proud of me.
or Alex. You could put Alexandra too, but Alex is fine.
Okay. I'm gonna mute myself and it's all you.
All right. Hi everyone. Alex, addict and alcoholic. So I guess just to start off, going into my backstory a bit, and what would have led to, you know, um, precursors, or what triggered me, or what would have led to my addictions, later on. And the more I look at my trajectory and my journey in retrospect, I started using and boozing at a very young age, at the age of 10. Um, Looking back on it today, 4 years and 2 months into recovery now, I really got to say, first of all, for me, recovery is absolutely transformative process in and of itself. Real transformation requires real honesty, and I'll get to that. And I don't say it's my clean date. I don't say it's my sober date. It's absolutely my rebirth date, because that life I previously lived before April 22nd, 2017, completely ceased to exist. And that woman that I used to be, before April 22nd, 2017, completely ceased to exist that day. It's funny, on another podcast, with the One Day I Decided podcast, I was asked the question, one day I decided. And unbeknownst to me, on April 22nd, 2017, that one day I decided, unbeknownst to me, to change my entire life, my entire world. So going back to, the young age of 10, um, looking back on it now, the drugs and alcohol were absolutely never the problem. They were the solution to my every problem. Obviously, the further I go into my recovery, uncovering, discovering, and recovering myself on a daily basis, I've been peeling those layers, going more profound, doing that deep inner healing work, tapping into my inner child, my subconscious mind. So again, when I go into the recovery as a transformative process, it's about uncovering, discovering, and recovering myself on a daily basis, ongoing, and God willing, lifelong. So going back to that, my father was an addict and an alcoholic. God bless his soul. He could not do for himself what I've been able to do for myself while he was here. He never found that better way of life for himself. He was one of the first people that I forgave, when I came into recovery. I have daddy abandonment issues. My mom left him when I was about 3 years old. So he was that father. He was never that father figure I needed in my life. He was never that male presence that I needed in my life. He was a very absent father, a no-show, those false promises, manipulation, right? Not matching his words to his actions, and vice versa. Um, but I know far too well and understand today his trials, plights, and tribulations, and his struggles, and what he went through, because I was that same parent for 10 years of my daughter's early life. She's going to be 14 this August, but I was a deplorable parent. I wasn't an absent parent, but I was absent. At the end of the day, I was totally checked out. I was in the throes of active addiction her first 10 years of life. So I've forgiven him for that, but definitely that daddy, I have deep rooted daddy abandonment issues. My dad is also Black, so I'm of mixed origin. And I now, you know, I used to, in early recovery, start all my shares off with the fact that he was Black and say he depicted every stereotype of a Black man. He was that deadbeat father. He was an addict. He was an alcoholic. But today, it's really, again, going back to his beliefs, his patterns, the way he was raised, his history, his programming, and how that transcended into my life. But the fact that I'm of mixed origin plays a big part in my story too, because I have what I've now identified as an identity crisis from a very young age. So never being Black enough for the Black or white enough for the white. So again, that leads me to now I have abandonment issues and I have an identity crisis and a feeling of not fitting in anywhere. You know, even in my mother's French Canadian, so right there, alcohol is inherent in my culture. I am French, and you know, even within my maternal family. So, sorry, did that cut out? Okay, so even within my maternal family, you know, my grandfather, my French Canadian grandfather, didn't even go to my mom and dad's wedding because she was marrying a Black man. So there's racism within my own family, right? So again, that feeling of fitting in, you know, mind you, my grandfather absolutely loved his grandchildren, especially me and my sister. My sister was his first grandchild, and that's the day he started speaking to my father and accepting my father. But that didn't stop him from making racial slurs in the house around us and what have you. And then later on in life, when I start dating Black guys, you know, the Black girl, she's too light skinned, she ain't Black, da da da. So I've always had that identity crisis, you know. So that definitely led me to one, seeking attention, seeking validation, seeking a feeling of fitting in, belonging, fitting in, and acceptance and love in all the fucking wrong places. So as much as I go, you know, to the drugs and alcohol were never the problem, because it's not just drugs and alcohol, you know. I have emotional addiction issues. I have love, sex addiction, codependency from a very young age, the age of 10. And, you know, I never really looked at it as sexual trauma, but I was hanging out with older men at the age of 10. And I don't mean like 13-year-old boys. Like I was with 20-year-old men from a very young age. And although the intercourse wasn't there, first of all, a 20-year-old man and a 10-year-old child have absolutely fucking nothing in common. And I could definitely say that today. But you know, I was getting fed the drugs and and making out and shit like that. That's pedophilia, you know, like let's face it. So that right there, you know, but always seeking that male figure that I was lacking in my life and just being part of. And as all that is happening, you know, I'm academically successful still. I was leading a dual life for so long. So academically successful, I'll even go back to it. And that kind of plays into my ego. You know, as much as I wanted to be a high school dropout, all of a sudden something clicked and I'm going to go to university. I'm going to fast track, you know. So I did fast track. I ended up going to university at a very young age, 17 years old. You know, I had my degree at the age of 20. Again, Alex. So as much as I'm leading this dual life, and I mean, from a very young age, I can't even tell you from the age of 10, where along that line, recreational use, and, you know, we were talking about it beforehand. It was fucking fun. It was recreational. I was having the time of my life. It was a party. It was a fucking party, you know? Don't get me wrong, but I don't know where along that line, and this is where we go into the progressiveness of the disease, and dis-ease, I'll always put a hyphen mark between it. I have a dis-ease with self. Where along that line, I went from recreational use to daily habitual abuse, but it was quick. And it became my norm. It became my way of living. It became my lifestyle. It became, by the end of it, my very identity. And I prided and glorified myself on it. And as I prided and glorified myself on that fact that I could outsnort you, outdrink you, outparty you, outfuck you, outdo you in everything, right? Disease of illusion, never enough. Alex can do more and more and more and more and more than everybody else and needs more and more and more, right? One too many, like try 5,000, never enough, right? You could stay up for 5 days, I could stay up for 6, watch me go, you know? I was in competition with everybody else to prove how much more I could do. But as all that's going on, and it's just my daily norm and so normalized and regularized in my routine, it's my routine. You know, I'm still leading this. I thought I was functional. I thought I was functional for so long. I think the only person I was fooling was myself. But, you know, over the span of 28 years, I was silently and slowly killing myself and ruining myself on every level. And that's mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, socially, right down to financially and professionally by the end of it. So again, you know, going back to now, Alex is 20 years old. She has a university degree. She gets into the federal government of Canada, not entry level, already, you know, moving her way, and power hungry. And this is where I'm power hungry, money hungry. I'm the fucking shit. I am the shit. This is my problem, right? And this is my ego. Everybody is below me and everything is beneath me, and watch me. And I just move up the ranks and move up the ranks, you know, so much so that, you know, that was my everything, was that fucking job. And just being, you know, having to be like the youngest, the youngest executive, the youngest this, the young, you know, but I was a real whiz kid. But this is all going to my head because as much as I'm leading a double life, and like by night, like I'm dating dealers, I'm hanging out, I'm on the streets, I'm getting in fights, I'm living a completely dual life. And then by day, here's professional Alexandra, like working for the top dogs in the fucking federal government of Canada, even working in ministers' offices. So like that would be like your equivalent of a governor or senator, you know? And here I am by day, professional Alex, until that so always this level of success, you know. And when we go into that dis-ease of perception, my perception kept me in denial for so long. I'm not a criminal like the rest of you. You know, I only do, even right down to like, you know, I would never do fucking pharmaceuticals because fucking you could get that shit at the pharmacy. Like I only did illicit drugs and the best of the best for my nose. Like it had to be cocaine, nothing else. You know, like it's like Alex or alcohol, you know, alcoholics go to meetings, drunks don't. But again, you know, that whole premise that I was the fucking shit, man. I was the best thing since sliced bread. Like I was it. I was big time, you know, and my exposure and like this is all shit going to my head, right? But the world revolved around me. I was in so self-centered, so self-absorbed. I didn't care about anybody else. But you know what? Looking back on it today, I didn't care about anybody else because I didn't even care about myself, you know? So yeah, so just, you know, so a very high ranking at a very young age, and still being able to lead this dual life until that dual life, I didn't realize it, but there was no more hiding it. And, you know, when we go into, you know, paying the high cost for our poor decisions, like I was stripped of any judgment, any decision making, any rational thinking or logic. I was starting to make all those mistakes on the job, but not realizing it, you know, well, kind of realizing it, but thinking I'm invincible. I'm not getting caught. There's no consequences to my actions. And like my drugging and drinking career spanned 28 years, you know, from the age of 10 to the age of 38. I didn't get into recovery until I was 38 years old. in there too, you know, even with my father's, my daughter's father, you know, that was a tumultuous breakup. But again, we didn't even know each other. You know, every relationship I've had, let's put that in quotation marks, relationship. I never really had any real relationships. And the only things that I had in common with anybody I was ever with was the fact that we drug and drank together. We facilitated and enabled each other. That's it, that's all. No other areas of interest, no other common areas of interest whatsoever. Everybody was just a one night stand for me, right? Remember that I can outfuck you. Like I can't even count the amount of men that I've been with, right? That promiscuity thing, blackouts, you name it. Like I could have been gangbanged. I didn't even know, you know, like the compromising situations I put myself in are absolutely, today I definitely realize there's always been a higher power with me that I didn't know then. But for me to be able to be here to live to tell the tale, my higher power has always been with me, and I just had to find my fucking purpose, which I'm living out today. But even my father's daughter, right? Like he was supposed to be a one night stand, but the minute that you would show me, and then this goes back to my abandonment issues and my emotional addiction and my love addiction and my sex addiction, the minute that you would show me that little extra bit of attention, like come back the next day and I don't even remember your name. So I ask you to write your phone number on a piece of paper so that you could write your name on it, because I have no clue what your name was to begin with. You know, that's what happened. And it was love at first sight. It was a 3-year relationship, too long. I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter, and my daughter asked me this not too long ago, about a year ago. It was the first time that she heard this part of my story in a podcast interview. She was over listening, and she said, "So I was a mistake." I said, "You were not a mistake. You weren't planned. You are the greatest gift that I've ever had, my greatest achievement. It just took me 10 years to fucking show you." You know? So yeah, so that was the tumultuous breakup. You know, he came with his own baggage and his own issues. I used to always say the guys I've been with are they were emotionally damaged. Clearly, I was just as emotionally damaged as they were. And that, you know, I ended up winning exclusive custody. And I don't know how, but I always looked good on paper, right? Alex, high ranking, professional, successful, financially stable, freaking on paper, I looked so good and I could sell you. It's funny, the other day in a share, I was saying how my background's in communications. I'm a spin doctor. I was spin doctoring everybody, like the lies I was telling, the portrayal of myself, the facade, the front, the mask I was wearing. But I'm a professional spin doctor, right? I could spin shit any which way, you know? So on paper, I was glowing, you know? But the judge had even told me there, you'd think this would be a wake-up call. Like I could have very well had her taken away from me. The judge told me right there, like, as parents, you guys are fucking jokes. Like you guys are really jokes, you know? Like get your shit together. But that didn't stop me, you know, and I continued on, and it was just a debaucherous lifestyle for so long, you know. And by the end of it, you know, in lead up to, and I'm going to get now to like in lead up to my spiritual awakening on April 22nd, 2017. And I'll tell you, it was definitely a spiritual awakening in that room. There was a power greater than myself in that room that day, because up until that point, that last year, especially the last 6 months in the throes of active addiction, there were times where between every rail and every swig of whiskey, I would be telling myself, this is the fucking last one. This is the last one. You can't live like this anymore. Now I go into, you know, that powerlessness, that step one, powerlessness, right? Unmanageability. I didn't realize my life had become completely unmanageable. I ruined my life completely. I'll get into that in a second. But that powerlessness was not only powerlessness loss of full loss of control of myself, but of my life. You know, cocaine and alcohol consumed my every thought, so I consumed it. You know, and that's it. You know, by the end of it. But by the end, you know, every 5 minutes. So on April 22nd, 2017, when I had there was definitely a power greater than myself in that room that day for me to finally fucking take action, flip the script, seek the help I so desperately needed for so long, and get me to walk into the rooms of recovery that day. But in lead up to that last year, you know, I was a mess. I was a hot mess. But there's so many. I hit so many rock bottoms. Like, you know, at work, I had just been promoted. You know, when I was younger, like I'm 38 years old here now, you know, when I was younger, yeah, that shit could fly. Alex was fine, like coming in at 6 a.m. and freaking taking a shower and heading out the door, you know, she was good at that. But at 38 years old, I'm not a young pup anymore. There was one morning that I got to work, I was so tweaked out. And I just reeked, not that it was my first time looking like that or reeking or whatever, you know, but I was literally so tweaked out in my car. I called one of my friends and he's like, you cannot fucking possibly go in there. And I'm like, I can't. So I lied. Again, I was lying every day. Like my absenteeism rate was through the roof. But this was my biggest one of all was, you know, I'd called in and said I got in a car accident. And then I didn't show up to work for 2 months. And then there I was partying around the clock for 2 fucking months instead of going to work. And I was forging doctor's notes. Like I was forging my doctor's signature. I was literally going to work. And you know, when we say that overthinking and over planning and not being able to keep up with your lies anymore, and what did you tell this, and what date did you go on sick leave on, and blah, 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 like all this is just this crazy fucking insanity of me spin doctoring my life, right? And like going and sitting there and putting my thing through the Xerox machine 500 times so that like the color looks right and matching it up. Like this is some crazy shit. I'm pretty resourceful. But you know, and then that whole, you know, where I go, where I said earlier, that disease of perception, right? And I'm not a criminal like the rest of you. Throughout this time, and it had not just started then, it was just that I couldn't pay it off before anybody could notice. But I had taken a habit of using my government travel card, my government Amex, public funds to fund my own habits. I was going to the liquor store with my travel card. That's the only place I was traveling to. And I was taking out cash advances by the end to fucking get my shit. I'll tell you what, I made such a good salary, you know, but for that to like, I made such a good salary. And then that November, I'm sitting here tweaked out in the morning, and at 9 o'clock in the morning, a bailiff comes to my door and I'm getting served a notice of foreclosure on my condo because I haven't paid my mortgage in 7 months. So I almost have me and my daughter living out of the streets. So right there and then I was like, what are you doing with your life, Alex? Like, it's time to like fucking change shit. Clearly you have a problem. And I reached out to somebody who I'd known in active addiction. She was younger than me, and she had gone completely ballistic and committed herself and went to rehab and detox and everything, and was in a fellowship at that time, about 3 months in. And you know, I reached out to her then, but the intent was there, the will wasn't. I didn't go to any meetings whatsoever. I just talked to her and kept that line of communication open. And then even on that New Year's Eve, you know, I went to so I was clean and sober 28 days at that point, but no program. But I did go with her to the masquerade ball for that on that New Year's Eve for that fellowship. And you know what, like, how befitting, like what an analogy, because Alex went in there thinking that she was clean for 2 hours so she could pass. And, you know, I was the only one not wearing a mask, yet I was the one wearing a mask still. And as soon as that 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 hit, like Alex couldn't get out of there fast enough to go on a rampage. And that was like my final hurrah, 4-month hurrah. And, I was getting into another codependent relationship with a much younger guy. And the weekend before April 22nd, 2017, in a drug-induced psychosis, I thought I would have to take my own life. My dealers weren't coming to my house anymore. When your dealers have cause for concern for you, there's a serious fucking problem. Like, they were telling me to get off the street. They didn't want to see my face. They weren't coming to my house. So in one last final act of desperation, I went across town, picked up off of somebody I didn't know. And I could tell you whatever I put up my nose that day for having done it for so long was definitely not fucking cocaine. I thought I would have to take my own life to get down from that shit. So now it comes to a point that you can't even trust the shit that's on the streets anymore, right? So just all these little things and all these rock bottoms, that led to that. And then on April 22nd, 2017, unbeknownst to me, I would change my entire world. As I was laying there, there was so much going into my head. Like, I could vividly remember this. I was so fucked. I was trying to go to sleep, but I got fucking woke, and that was it, man. Surrender, fucking turn it over. Like, I need help. I cannot live this life anymore. This life is not fair to myself, but it's not fair to my daughter. Who the fuck am I? She's about to be 10. I've been living this life. If I don't start talking the talk and walking the walk and stepping up to the plate and being a fucking parent and being the woman I'm raising, who am I to sit there? I got to start leading by example here, because I was her age when I started living this life, and there's no way I want her to live it, right? So from there, when I go back to real transformation requires real honesty, that's the point where I got brutally and rigorously honest with myself. Alex, you ain't shit for shit. You're a junkie and you're an alcoholic, and you need some fucking help, and you need it now. So I called that girl back, my friend back, from 4 months prior, who, when we go into that, planting that mustard seed of faith, that's all it took. And she walked me through those doors that day, and there was no turning back. But then I go into, change is inevitable. I'm not the same person I was 5 minutes ago, but transformation is a conscious choice. I started realizing I have a 3-pronged disease. I have a mental obsession, physical compulsion, and spiritual malady. I read John C. Maxwell's quote early on in recovery: change something you do daily, change your life. Your success lies in your daily routine. I completely overhauled my daily routine, because remember how drugging and drinking were my lifestyle. They were my daily routine. Now recovery became my daily routine, and I literally started breathing, eating, sleeping, living my recovery. Everything I do is motivated by recovery. So, today I'm even a competitive bodybuilder, and people will always ask me, is your, it's integral to your recovery. It's not integral, it is intrinsic to my recovery. I approach it exactly the same way I approach my recovery. Those 12 spiritual principles are absolutely applied and practiced in all my affairs. So whether that be my role as a sponsor, whether that be my role as a mother, whether that be me in the workplace, whether that be me hitting a stage, everything, right? Recovery is absolutely a lifestyle to me, and it's a transformative process in and of itself. So, I started working on myself, going downtown on myself, realizing the mind, body, and soul synergy and how they work at interplay, and working on every fucking level, right? Day in and day out. I cannot escape, and that's what I call my sober grind. I cannot escape doing the mental exercise on the daily, the spiritual exercise on the daily, and the physical exercise on the daily. And, you know, good physical health promotes good mental health, and good mental health promotes good physical health, and vice versa, right? And so yeah, so you know, I'm going for my pro card, and this is an analogy I use a lot to show people that those 12 spiritual principles from my program, you know, and I always say nutrition and fitness have proven viable approaches to my recovery, complemented by my 12-step style program. You know, I work a trifecta program. It's win-win-win. It's a holistic approach because it's holistic. It's my entire being, right? My mind, body, and soul. Recovery is coming back to that aligned, balanced, and harmonious state with yourself, right? The restoration of a hopeless state of mind, body, and soul. And that's the way I work it every day, day in and day out, you know. My daily reprieve is contingent on my spiritual maintenance. That's contingent on my physical maintenance and my mental maintenance and my emotional maintenance, you know. So yeah, so I approach everything. So for me, like right now, and at 4 years into my journey, and I'll finish it with this, you know, at 4 years into my journey, you know, at this juncture, there was just something, you know how we say, if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. I'm fucking painstaking with myself every day. I'm going to be working on myself day in and day out every day for the rest of my life, God willing. But I'm already fucking amazed, you know, put in the work, reap the rewards, right? But at 4 years into my journey, you know, there was just something had to give. I went into a deep depressive state this winter, started realizing that my behavioral patterns and my character defects were starting to resurface, and my addictions were starting to manifest in different forms, body dysmorphia, you name it. Like there was so many things going on that you know what? I need a mindset transformation coach. I'm going for my pro card year. This is my pro card. It's time for me to go profound again, to grow pro. You know, I want to be pro in all my fucking affairs. So I got a mindset transformation coach. I'm redoing my steps formally, you know, and I do sponsor, I also sponsor women, but like I'm taking, valuing my time and going deep down inside myself again and focusing some of that energy back on me. Because a lot of it, you know, I tend to go, I tend to be addicted to doing and helping everybody else with their recovery, but neglecting my very own at the same time, right? Our blessing cannot be our curse. So yeah, so, you know, I have to do the work day in and day out. And there's a direct correlation between the amount of work I put in and those promises materializing, right? And they do fucking materialize. Like I'm living proof, you know. I didn't get into the part where, you know, everything catches up to you. I did get fired from the federal government of Canada after 18 years of pensionable service. But I'm back in today. You know, somebody was following my journey on social media, and lo and behold, sent me a Facebook Messenger one Monday morning, and within 3 weeks, I was back in the federal government. You know, this after a year of being unemployed, back working top level, the same level I left at, but better than ever. You know, angels put on my path, you name it. These miracles, I can't even explain the shit that has happened to me in the last 4.5 years of my life. But again, going back to that real transformation requires real honesty. I don't even look the same that I did 4.5 years ago, you know. And I'll just end it with this, you know, like my whole journey, if I look back on it in retrospect today, what I can definitely, you know, 28 years of substance abuse, that was a culmination of 28 years of substance abuse, a complete lack of self-respect for myself, stripped of any dignity I may have ever had, a disregard for my health and wellness and my well-being and that of my daughters, my safety and my security. But you know what, like since being in recovery, I've lost 100 pounds. I actually had to bulk up for my first competition. I lost 100 pounds in my first year. But you know what? It's not about the weight loss. It's about the life gained. I'm not on a diet. I absolutely am on a lifestyle change. And, I may be half the size, but I'm 2 times the mother, human, woman, and individual I ever was. And, recovery, again, if I say that, it's going back to that transformative state, right? The goal is not to be clean and or sober. It's absolutely to love yourself enough to live an addiction-free life. It's not only about abstinence. It's about creating a quality of life for yourself, a healthy and abundant life, and that happiness that I was always looking for, and that love that I was always looking for, it was all fucking within me. I was looking for it in all the wrong places, and absolutely, self-care is absolutely self-love. Self-love is self-respect, and self-respect is self-discipline. And, respect yourself and respect your efforts. And once you have all 4 of those under your belt, that's absolutely where the fucking true power lies, and tapping into your higher self and higher power on daily. We are capable of so much, you would have told me my life would have been like this today. I would have done this fucking years ago. But you know what? It just was not my time, It's all God's will and way for me. And it's just now me living out my purpose, right? Even running Sober Active Canada, which is my national nonprofit organization here in Canada. Don't let the Canada fool you now that everything's gone Zoom and online. It's pretty much borderless. But I provide a platform. I do lives. I provide a platform to share other people's experience, strength, and hope. That piece about lifestyle management, strengthening and nourishing our recovery by being active through nutrition, doing the self-care work, the mental, physical, spiritual, social, practical, and mental self-care work on ourselves to nourish and strengthen our recovery on a daily basis. So I share other people's experience, strength, and hope. I spotlight people, I feature them, and carry the message of health, hope, and healing, and foster health, hope, and healing, and affect lifestyle, sustainable habit changes, right? Empowering people to make those health conscious and wise decisions for themselves. But we also hold, I also hold virtual and locally based events, which are, either group physical activities. We're going on a recovery hike in Labelle, Quebec on July 17th. So if you're in the Quebec region, come check that out. But yeah, group physical activity or beginner yoga sessions and workouts in parks, coupled with a 12-step style format meeting. But they're all topical discussion meetings focused on either fitness and recovery, nutrition and recovery. I am a certified health and lifestyle coach today, and I only work with recovering addicts and alcoholics. But as much as I'm addicted to bettering myself, I'm addicted to helping others better themselves. And that's just beyond anything I would have ever thought, because let's get back to the Alex that didn't care enough about herself to fucking care about anybody else. Today, that's my passion, right? I absolutely want to help everybody else, show them that they could live healthy and happy lives, show them that they're capable of so much more and that they are so worthy of this fight. If there's any battle worth fighting, it's this one. And again, when we go back to the self-care is self-love is self-respect is self-discipline. That's where the true fucking power lies, Love yourself enough to fucking live a life unaddicted.